Las Vegas, Nevada. And I want to talk a little bit about the 2020 Badge Transparency Act. So whether you're watching this next week, next month, next year, you're going to learn something today that you didn't know yesterday. So hit the like button just real fast if you would. Hit the like button and then drop down in the comment section where you're watching from.
No, that's your problem, dude. That's not.
Yo, so sorry about that. Just needed a second. So I wanna kind of give you guys a rundown of what has happened here at this federal building. If you're unaware with what I do, I'm a civil rights activist, and specifically, I stress test our rights. That's what I do. I will put myself in a vicarious position to stress test our rights and make sure that the copper is not going to wrongfully touch me, arrest me, wrongfully convict me, wrongfully arrest me, not convict me, wrongfully charge me. You know, that's what I do. I put myself in harm's way often because it's absolutely imperative that we all stress test our rights. So when you do that, you have HR 7711. And HR 7711 clearly says the Badge Transparency Act. So if you go back and you research HR 7711, I want to be clear on and the reason why it exists. So in 2020, right after George Floyd was murdered in the streets of Minneapolis, and we got to see the actual recording, what happened was in New York, so many people were being attacked by federal agents. So in there's so many parts to this, but I want people to understand what has transpired here and the reason why I'll be bringing a lawsuit against the U.S. Marshals here and the reason why I'll be suing them. So I want to explain to you the reason why I'm going to file against the U.S. Marshals here in Las Vegas. So in 2020, after George Floyd was murdered in the streets of Minneapolis, what happened was, because of the 1994 crime bill, there's a specific part of the 1994 crime bill called Operation Relentless Pursuit. Operation Relentless Pursuit is when the federal government can decide, they can just decide that there's exigent circumstances in a particular state, and in this state it was New York after the George Floyd murder. And so they invoked the exigent circumstances clause, and then what that triggered was the 1994 crime bill's Operation Relentless Pursuit. So what is Operation Relentless Pursuit is what you would start to question. So Operation Relentless Pursuit is when they can take every single three-letter CIA, FBI, ATF, ICE, they could take any three-letter super secret federal agency and they can inundate a state, which is what they did in the state of New York in 2020, right after George Floyd was murdered by an obvious pig. So now that's what happened. So then in 2020, using the 1994 crime bill, what they did was they then invoked Operation Relentless Pursuit in the state of New York. Now, what exactly does that mean? That means that the state of New York was inundated with dozens and dozens of FBI, CIA, ICE, ATF, any three-letter agency that you can name, and some that you've never heard of. So what happened? What was the result of Operation Relentless Pursuit in New York right after George Floyd was murdered and there were protests going on in the streets? Let me tell you what happened. Using Operation Relentless Pursuit, federal agents similar to U.S. Marshals, what they did was they ascended upon the streets of New York. And then what these federal agents did, FBI, CIA, ATF, ICE, ATF, what they did is they started to beat, abuse, literally kill protesters in the streets. They slammed one girl's head to the ground so bad she had to go into a coma for a long period of time. And so what the result of that was the 2020 Badge Transparency Act passed by the 116th Congress called HR 7711, House Resolution Bill 7711. Someone right now look up HR 7711 and put it into the comment section so that people can read it. Now, what happened? So here's what happens. The Badge Transparency Act is a direct reflection of the overreach of the 1994 crime bill's chapter called Operation Relentless Pursuit, where they put dozens and hundreds of federal agents in New York who were then hurting people in the streets of New York City. So they passed HR 7711 called the Badge Transparency Act, stating that any federal officer has to have on his chest his name and his badge number. This is a law, HR 7711. That would include U.S. Marshals, FBI, CIA, ICE, every single federal agency in the United States of America, when they are working, has to have their name and badge number on their chest, called the Badge Transparency Act 2020. Okay, so now let me bring you up to date. I came here a week ago to go and file a lawsuit. I'm sorry, three weeks ago, to file a lawsuit against the Las Vegas Metro Police Department. When I got here, these jackboot thugs, none of them have names or badge numbers on. So I said to them, excuse me, you are a U.S. Marshal. You have to have your name and badge number on your chest. Here, your name and badge number has to go on your chest. What they did, instead of listening to me and saying, oh, there's an actual law here, and looking up the rule of law, instead, what they did was they followed me around the federal building. It gets worse. And this is a month ago, the very first time I sued Las Vegas Metro Police Department. It gets even worse. So then the second time I came here, they then decided that they would follow me. So I was followed by the U.S. Marshals, and when I asked them their name and badge number, they refused to identify. In violation of HR 7711, the 2020 Badge Transparency Act. I explained to them that they're in violation of the 2020 Transparency Badge Act. Everybody can look it up. It's online, everybody can read it. So I explained to them they're in violation of this, okay? So then when I went in to file Floyd Wallace's lawsuit, acting as a courier for Mr. Wallace, I went into the clerk's office, and these guys followed me with a half a dozen cops. You know what they said to me? They said to me, don't come back to the federal building with those flip-flops on because you have a bottle opener on the bottom of your flip-flop. I looked at that pig and I said, go have a ham sandwich, pig. I didn't use those words, they were a little more aggressive. I said, you can go have a ham sandwich. If you're afraid of that, you're in the wrong business, bro. The pin from your belt buckle is more dangerous than my 1/4-inch piece of metal on the bottom of my flip-flop, which, by the way, I think when I bought them, I knew there was a bottle opener on here, but I don't drink. I don't pop open bottles of beer. That's not what I do. So I had forgotten it was on there. And the guy said, what's up with the bottle opener on your flip-flop? And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And then I flipped my shoe up and I remembered, oh yeah, that's right. The guy told me there's a bottle opener on the bottom of these for, people who go to the beach and they want to open their bottle. So when I came here, I explained to them, you're in violation of HR 7711. I said, listen to me, I will sue you if you guys violate my rights. Now, instead of them understanding that they had violated my rights, they're in violation of the rule of law, which is all I talk about on this channel. There is a rule of law. I'm sorry, guys. I disagree with a lot of other auditors. I disagree with a lot of other people who are on YouTube talking to you. I do not agree with a volunteerist or an anarchist society. I don't agree with it. I'm more of a guy that believes what Thomas Hobbes wrote in The Nature of Man, understanding the nature of man, which is that if without the rule of law, men would kill one another, and I believe that. So I believe there has to be a rule of law. The rule of law is what? The Constitution. That is the basis of the rule of law. So when these guys decided that they were not going to put a badge on and put their badge number on, that would have been one thing. But here's what happened last time I was here. When I came here the last time to file Mr. Wallace's federal civil rights lawsuit against the Las Vegas Metro Police Department, when I got here, they demanded they see my ID, which I said is a violation of my Fourth Amendment. And then they had me go through their metal detector. And then when I explained to them, I'm here to file a lawsuit, and I said, where's your badge number? I went up to the marshal's office to complain that there was no badge number and no identifying name on the jacket of the person. And they said to me, get out of the building. we're going to escort you out. And I said, you are not going to escort me out of this building. I'm working as in capacity of the court right now as a courier. You are not going to walk me out of this building. That's not going to happen. And so then the marshal, who goes by the name of Seth, that's all I know about him, he said, okay, you're right. I'm going to take you down. I'm going to take you down to the clerk's office where you can get your filing done. So I take Mr. Wallace's lawsuit down there, which is already being filed. I go back down to where they're filling out the paperwork to file Mr. Wallace's lawsuit. And then when I'm down in the waiting room, these guys tell me that they're going to trespass me from the federal building. I said, you're not trespassing me from the federal building. You don't have a right to trespass me. And that's when the guy said, oh, what about the bottle opener on your shoe? And I told him to go fly a kite. So then I ended up being surrounded by a half a dozen marshals. The woman who was filing Floyd Wallace's lawsuit, she got flustered because there was a half a dozen pigs standing over the top of her. And so she didn't stamp it and she didn't get the money for it. 2 things in a row. So first I looked at the paperwork to make sure it was filed properly. It was not filed properly. I said, there's no stamp on this. And then the clerk said, let me get you the stamp for it. So then she stamped it and then I left. However, during that time period, she forgot to take my debit card and run the fee for the $402 to file the lawsuit. So I got an email from the clerk saying, hey, you didn't pay for this. So I was like, oh my God. So then I tried to make it down here yesterday. I couldn't make it. So this morning was the first time I could come down. And so when I come down here to file my lawsuit, I walk through the doors and the U.S. Marshals then decide to follow me. They followed me. And just for the U.S. Marshal who followed me today, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you, at least because there are good people in everything, but in policing, there's just lots and lots of bad. So, but the guy who was assigned to follow me today, I mean, he was literally assigned. I called my attorney on the phone. I said, hey, listen, I want to stay on the phone in case these guys decide to arrest me for no reason. And so I came back down here to pay for Mr. Wallace's lawsuit, and they decided to follow me around the federal building, of which I protested. I protested and I protested. And I said, listen, guys, I'm here to file a lawsuit. I don't want to be followed around by cops when I come to file a lawsuit here. And they just decided they were going to follow me around. And I said, great. Then I'm going to go back to the marshal's office and file another complaint. I went to file a complaint at the marshal's office and I got the supervisor. So then I said to the supervisor, what's your name and badge number? And he said, I'm not going to give it to you. I asked him, what's your name and badge number so I can file a complaint? And he said, I'm not going to give it to you. So we have just the U.S. Marshals in America are just ghosts. They're just ghost police. Is that what they are? They don't have to have their name and badge number on. They don't have to follow the rule of law. Why is that? HR 7711 says that man has to have his name and badge number on his jacket. Why isn't it there? You can't cross the street unless there's a green light, or you'll get a ticket and you could go to jail. 2001. Atwater versus City of Lago Vista. Absolutely anything is arrestable, any infraction of the law. If you break the law, the Supreme Court Justice who wrote it was named David Souter. In the 2001 case of Atwater versus City of Lago Vista, David Souter wrote that if you violate the law, even an infraction of the law, the cop can arrest you and it's not a violation of your Fourth Amendment right. So David Souter wrote that in 2001. If you violate the law, even an infraction of the law, in front of a peace officer, he can arrest you and it is not a violation of your Fourth Amendment right. You can be seized for jaywalking. You can be seized for running a stoplight. You can be seized for anything. But these guys don't have to follow the basic rule of law that says they have to have a badge and name on their shirt. What's the deal here? What's the deal? Is there a rule of law in our country or not? Either these guys have to follow the rule of law, or there's no rule of law. Either we stand for rule of law or we fall. It's that simple. Without the rule of law, we would fall to chaos. It would be horrifically bad. You would have factious groups that sprouted up all over this country, and you, your family, your loved ones would not be safe. We have to follow the rule of law. Well, HR 7711 says that these guys have to follow the rule of law as well. So all you marshals in there who said you watch my videos, what the hell's the matter with you? We have the rule of law in this country. It's your job to uphold the rule of law. If I could stick my finger right in your chest like you were a 10-year-old boy and say, hey, you straighten up, I would. There is the rule of law in this country. Either we have a rule of law that the government has to follow. What are the 4 principles of the rule of law? First principle, that government and its agents are also accountable to the rule of law. That's what this entire channel is about, the rule of law. He has to follow the rule of law. We all have to follow the rule of law. It's unbelievable to me. You U.S. Marshals who said you watch my channel, are you not hearing this? There is a rule of law. Marbury versus Madison, 1803, states that the Constitution is the rule of law. That is the founding documentation, the Supremacy Clause. Nothing goes above it, nothing goes before it. This is the foundation of law for Americans. Either that's real or it's not. Which is it? Either we live by a rule of law or we do not. Which is it? Which is it? I'm just dying to know. I'm just dying to know. These guys got to live by rule of law or not. Because if they don't have to live by rule of law, they can form their own gang. They can, oh my God, it sounds like that's what's happening. Without rule of law, these guys will turn tyrannical. It's that simple. The U.S. Marshal said, you guys watch my channel. Do you hear me now? Do you hear me now? Either we have a rule of law in this country or we don't. Which is it? Which is it? I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses on. I can't see any of the comments. They're all messed up anyway, as you guys know. You guys make sure you have my trifold in your car. By the way, we got another, I think I have almost a couple $100 more going into Eric's fund today. So you guys swing by DeleteLawz.com, pick up your indestructible trifold or get the digital trifold. Keep it with you at all times. Never not have that trifold on you in your car. Make sure you do not engage with these guys because they don't follow any kind of rule of law. There's no rule of law. So that's what I'm talking about. You guys go by DeleteLawz.com, get your indestructible trifold or your digital trifold. Have it with you always at all times. Apparently, there's no rule of law in our country if you're a U.S. Marshal. If you're a U.S. Marshal, then you don't have to follow H.R. 7711. It doesn't apply to you. It doesn't apply to you. You're a U.S. Marshal. You can have ghost police in our country. Ghost police. They would never, since we don't have to identify them, no name and badge number, they would never band together to form an illegal gang, would they? Like during, oh, I don't know, Prohibition, like the Wickersham Commission says that's what cops did. This is why the reading is so important. If you read the Wickersham Commission, you'll find out that the cops banded together and formed their own alcohol gangs. All right, I got to get the flock out of here. Thanks for coming. I'll see you guys on the next one. Later, Gators.